Okay. All right. So instead of speculating and getting everyone's feel of the market, I'm going to give you guys today some insight. And you guys may have seen this last week. It came out. This information came out towards the middle of the week last week. And let me share my screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. So it's the pending home sales. This comes out every month. And the National Association of Realtors does this and conducts this survey. So just to figure out where's the market going. Is it going up, down, left, right, sideways? You know, we don't know unless we look at an overall market analysis of the entire country. So let's take a look at this, and we're going to see that home prices actually slipped 1% in July, and that's month over month, right? So that may not seem like a lot, but historically, that's the biggest decrease in home prices in I don't know how many decades. We're going to read on this in this article right now to figure out what does this really mean and where is the market actually heading. You know, what is this information telling us? Has anyone gotten the opportunity to see this information yet? Anyone read through this or privy to the info we're about to cover?
No, not yet.
Okay, cool. All right, so this came out on August 24th. You know, obviously this is a big thing for us and the entire economy because you know, the housing market pretty much dictates where the economy goes because housing employs so many people. You know, from the sale of one home, you've got realtors, attorneys, inspectors, painters, movers, electricians, stagers. You know, there's so many people that get employed from the home, not to mention the people that manufacture the things you put in your house, right? So many different people make a living off of home sales. So if home sales start to decline, or prices start to come down, we start to see people cutting back and people not spending as much, and then maybe people not being able to be as busy as they used to be. Because if anyone has tried to hire a contractor in the last year, you know, they've been kind of gotten their head in the clouds, you know, thinking they can charge anything they want and just have like you know, not enough people working for them, or they'll tell you, look, I can get to you maybe in a couple of months. You know, I mean, that's not their fault, you know, and I respect them for that. But as far as pricing goes, yeah, they were naming their price, you know, the last year or so. So it's been really hard for investors and homeowners to really get the upgrades that they've wanted recently because of the pricing of the materials and the labor now. But things are going to start to change soon, and you know that pendulum is going to swing back in a more neutral area. Guys, give me a second, please. I'm getting a call from the inspectors that are at this property right now. Give me 1 sec.
While he's doing that, does anyone know how to change my screen name? Where do I go to change my screen name on this Zoom?
There's 3 dots on the right-hand side on top.
3 dots where it says view,
Oh.
right?
Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. Usually I do that on my phone, but oops. No, I don't know.
You
It's in
don't
your
know.
profile, Brad. Go to your profile.
Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, there's a cogwheel on the main home page.
Oh, okay, so I got to get out of here to do it.
No, you don't. Do you have Zoom downloaded on your desktop?
Yes.
Okay.
Down when I go down along the bottom, it says mute, stop video, participants, chat, share screen, record reactions, apps, but I don't see anything else.
No, if you are on the main page,
Yeah.
your home page where you got return to meeting, join, schedule, you got the 4
Oh yeah,
blocks.
it's there. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
you click on
right.
that. If you don't see it in the cogwheel, normally it's in the cogwheel. I'm over in mine now.
Okay. Well, Lewis is back, so I won't interrupt. Go ahead, Lewis.
Oh, okay.
No worries. What are you trying to get, Brent? You trying to change
Um,
this?
Change his
I just
name.
noticed my screen name is a number, and I was just curious while you were doing that. I was going to change it, but I don't see how. But I'll do it later.
Okay, no worries. All right. All right, so let's get started with this information here. So as we can read from the headline, the pending home sales slipped 1% in July, which is a huge number, but it doesn't seem like much, but it's a huge number because if you annualize that over the course of a year, that would be a 12% decrease in home prices, which is massive, right? All right, so now the typical mortgage payment has reached nearly $2,000 in June, up 54% from last year. Now, to most of us, a $2,000 mortgage payment seems like, yeah, we'll take that. Yeah, that's awesome. But for a lot of people, this is a little bit higher than, because the majority of homes, guys, in the middle of the country are not priced as high as we are on the coast, of the entire country. So this is a little bit of an uptick for the majority of the country. So let's take a look at this. What we're going to find out in this article is basically summed up here, and we'll go through some of this information as well besides the highlights. So pending home sales dropped slightly by 1% from June. It was the second straight month decline and the 8th in the last 9 months. So for the last 9 months, 8 of them have been declines. So this is telling you a lot. This is telling you where the market is heading. If it was just a 1 month kind of like fluke, then it would have been not worth mentioning. But it's been 8 out of the last 9 months that we've been seeing this price trending down. So okay, so now pending sales fell in 3 of the 4 major regions. In the West, posting a small so the West Coast, California, and Washington, and a lot of those states, they're holding up pretty well, is what they're saying here. So pending home sales fell in 3 of the 4 major regions, with the West posting a small increase. Okay, so that it could be just for the short term. It could also come down as well. In California, you guys know, is a very elevated market. A lot of reasons why people are still obviously operating there, but it seems like it's still a lot of demand there. So compared with the prior year, contract signings declined by double digits in each region, with pending home sales in the West down 30%. Now, remember what we said here, that in the West, that there was a small increase in home prices. There's a small increase in home prices, but pending home sales are down 30%. So what can we gather from that information? Well, first of all, it's telling us that contracts on homes are going down in that area. Are they going down because less people are willing to sell, or are they going down because less people are willing to buy? Or is it maybe a combination of the two? Right. So what I always bring up the West is because the West is usually an indicator for what's about to happen in the rest of the country. I always say that because it's stuck with me since the last housing crash we've had. It always really kind of starts on the West and makes its way over to the East. So imagine that, guys. We have double-digit contract signings down compared to the prior year. So for us, that's a good thing, because remember, just because we're signing contracts doesn't mean that we're getting offers accepted, right? So we would rather write up less contracts and sign less contracts and sell more houses. So because obviously now there's less of a demand. So, but I think what they mean by here is actual contract signings and pendings that have actually gone into escrow and going into contract to be sold. So let's go ahead and continue here and see what we find out. Okay, this is just recent from last week. It says pending home sales declined for the 2nd consecutive month in July, and for the 8th straight month in the last 9 months, according to the National Association of Realtors. 3 out of the major regions registered month-over-month decreases through the West, though the West notched a minor gain, like we spoke about earlier. Year over year, for the region saw double-digit percentage slides. We spoke about that. The pending home sales index, a forward-looking indicator of home sales based on contract signings, slid 1% to 89.8 in July. Year over year, pending transactions sank 19.9%. An index of 100 is equal to the level of contract activity in 2001. So if we're at 100% on this index, that's when this indicator started operating in 2001. Then we're neutral to 2001. So right now we're at 89.8. So which means that we're actually at a decrease, or we're at less volume than we were in 2001. All right. So 2001, obviously, if you guys weren't in the market, most of us weren't. I wasn't even in the market yet. I think I started 2003. That was a market in which you can get into the real estate market very easily. Very, very simply. It wasn't hard to get a mortgage. It wasn't hard to find an affordable home. It was a very, I would say, it was a healthy market. It wasn't to the point yet where it was obnoxiously, like, ridiculously oversold, or mortgages weren't really that crazy yet. It was starting to get there. But in 2001, it was a pretty safe market, I would say. Right? It was a good time to buy, because if you would have bought in 2001, you've done very good in that decade. Well, right now, we are actually lower than that. So we're approaching an area in our market where we could be actually getting to a place where it's a little bit in a dangerous area, but still too soon to say that, because 89.8 is fairly good, compared to what we saw in 2001. All right, so in terms of the current housing cycle, we may be or at close to bottom in contract signings, said the NAR chief economist Lawrence Young. So yeah, what he's saying is that this might have been the initial scare off, and we might be at the low point. We might be at the valley, where we might be starting to make maybe kind of comeback, maybe a slight uptick on contract signing, which might be good, but that depends on a lot of factors. So let's continue reading. This month's a very modest decline reflects the recent retreat in mortgage rates. Inventories are growing for homes in the upper price ranges, but limited supply at lower price points is hindering transaction activity. Exactly what Sarah said. You see this, he's saying that inventories are growing for homes in the upper price ranges, but lower price ranges are still very, very much in demand. So exactly what she said. So the reason why that is because when you factor in rising mortgage rates, they have a bigger impact on more expensive homes than they do on lesser expensive homes. Because if you increase the price of a $300,000 home by 1 percentage point on a mortgage, that may not be that much of a difference. Maybe we're talking, who knows, maybe a $300 increase on that mortgage payment. But when we're talking about $1 million home, that's a huge increase in monthly payments. So a lot of times people in that category might say, you know what, maybe it's not the right time for me to go and buy. Maybe I should just wait, or maybe I should go and rent, because people don't want to overpay, especially in a market that's trending down. They'd rather give it a year and see where the market ends up then. So another thing that was mentioned here is mortgage rates. So mortgage rates have been all over the place. You guys remember just a couple months ago, mortgage rates were very low. Then they started to really climb pretty high, pretty fast. I think I saw people even getting mortgage rates in the sixes, that in mid sixes, and then they dropped a little bit. But last week, Jerome Powell had he had a speech at where was it? A Jackson Hole Economics Symposium, I think it was, that he spoke at last week, and he literally tanked the market. And he sent the bonds, which is what the mortgages are based off of. He sent the 10-year bond pretty high. The 10-year bond, I think, approached a 3.13 level, which is pretty high. Historically talking about the last few years, it's pretty high. So that would also equate to 30-year mortgages also getting up there. So that is something to watch, what happens in the upcoming weeks with the announcement that he made. Well, he really didn't announce anything new. Let me just give you guys a little insight on that. Jerome Powell is the Fed chairman. He's the chairman of the Federal Reserve, which he is the guy who really dictates our monetary policy. So whatever he kind of says and does is what the market reacts to. The stock market, the housing market, everything reacts to this man's plans and him and the board. So he came out last Thursday or last Friday? I think it was last Friday. He came out last Friday saying the same stuff he's always been saying, but saying it in more of a very harsh tone, saying that, we really have to crack down on inflation. We're going to do everything we have to do in order to make sure we get to that 2% level. And, there's going to be a lot of pain in the short term. So he said a lot of these buzzwords that really got the market scared. And if you guys were paying attention to the stock market on Friday, the Dow dropped over 1,000 points in just one day. I don't know if that's a record, but 4% down on the NASDAQ in one day. The bonds went, soaring, because what happens is, people take their money out of the markets, they put it in a bond, they rather 3% return on their money than a risky market. That's what's happening. So what that means is that the mortgage rates are also creeping up. So keep an eye on that. That's going to affect people getting mortgages as well in the short term. So let's continue reading here. And I just gave you that quick lesson. In terms of the current housing cycle, we may be at or close to the bottom. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I read that already. So in June, housing affordability plummeted to its lowest since 1989, according to the National Association of Realtors. Accounting for a 30-year fixed mortgage, a 20% down payment, the monthly mortgage payment on a typical home jumped from 1944, an increase of 54%, or $679 from 1 year ago. So the average American is paying almost $700 more on their mortgage than they were 1 year ago. And Brent is probably the only one here, maybe a few people here are able to comment on this, But Brent, in 1989, housing affordability was very low because we had, what kind of interest rates did we have back then?
1989, I think back then you were looking at, gosh, was that 3%?
Oh, no, back in the 1980s is when we had,
Back in the 80s was Jimmy Carter, that was like, I bought, I got a 13% interest rate on my mortgage and an
Yeah.
18% interest rate on a brand new car.
there you go. So those were the typical mortgage rates back then. I heard people getting high as 20% back in the 80s because why? Because the the chairman of the Fed back then, Paul Volcker, he raised interest rates to 20% to try to combat inflation.
And
So
I
could
had to-
that happen here?
Yeah, I had
Could
to
that
put,
happen with us? What's that?
I had to put 30% down to get 13%.
There you go. See, that's exactly right. Now, so what this article is telling us is that we have not experienced this type of unaffordability, if that's a word, right? Unaffordability on a mortgage since that era. Why is it that they had 20% interest rates back then? We have 6% interest rates now. Why is it that we're approaching those levels? Because everything is so much more expensive now. You know, a home back in 1989 would cost you, what did your house cost you, Brent, in 1989? Under 100 grand?
Yeah, I paid 44,000, but it was in Ohio.
Yeah, 44,000. But you know what? Ohio, you're talking about average Americans. You know, that's what we're talking right now. The
Yeah,
average home price now, what is it, guys? What's the average home price now? 300, 312,
30.
something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I could tell you, if I could interrupt for a second, the
Please.
same house that I'm trying to sell, when I came to Georgia in 2004, I purchased cash for $98,000. The
Wow.
same exact house that I'm selling today, that's sitting 20 days on the market, I have it priced at 350.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Wow.
That's just in a few years.
you can
That's
send me your
just it.
tithe, baby. You can send me your tithe.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Had I known that would happen, I would have held on to the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, but I was able to cash out all my stock options from Bristol Myers Squibb and Panasonic, and I
Smart
bought
move.
that house for cash for 98,000.
Good
Okay.
deal.
Because your stock wouldn't have been as high as your appreciation on your mortgages.
Yep.
I mean, your
Mhm.
appreciation on your home is. So
Yeah.
congrats on that.
But at some point, Louis, maybe that's a good point to just interject. At some point, you have to sell in order to recognize gain. If you just ride paper up and down, you never gain anything. At some points in history,
Yeah, you do. Take the money
necessary
off the
to
table.
sell, reboot, restabilize, and go again. So I think that's a very wise move. If you can take stock options, cash out, buy cash, and now go up from there, now you've got it.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of money over
Mhm.
the years and things that I've done. It went up, and if I had sold it, I would have had it. But I watched it go up. I watched it go down. I didn't gain anything. I just had a little bit of emotional hiccup.
That's how it is, man. Unfortunately, we can't time these things, but we can actually get in the ballpark, you know, and if we're smart with our money, we could roll it in, you know, house after house or investment after investment and continue growing. And that's a good move that you made there, because Belinda could now refinance her property, take that cash back out, and then own her home with no money out of her own pocket and go and buy that Bristol Myers Squibb stock back. And now she's got both, you know, so now it's a really good way of being able to continue growing your wealth. That's smart. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention, guys, in 1989, that house that Brenda's talking about was $44,000. Now that's probably like a $300,000 house, 320, 350, who knows how much it's worth now, right? So that means that home prices have gone up almost what, 8 times? It was like an 8x increase, right? But interest rates back then were, like Brent said, 13, 15, 20%. Now interest rates today are 6%, right? So if you multiply 6% by 8 times, well, the interest rate would have had to be 48%. Well, we're not getting 48% interest rates, but what I'm saying is that, what I'm trying to explain to you guys is that home prices have gone up 8-fold, right? But interest rates have not gone up 8-fold. Interest rates are actually probably a third of what they were, or a quarter of what they were back then. So if you're doing the numbers, it's more unaffordable today to own a home than it was back in the 80s, because home prices are 8 times as high and the interest rates are only 4 times as low. if that makes any sense. The interest rates are a quarter of what they were back then, or maybe say a third of what they were back then, but home prices are 8 times more than they were in the 80s. So if you
Hmm.
do those numbers, it's more unaffordable today to own a home than it was in the 80s for sure. And
Wow.
let's not even talk about taxes on property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen any property tax ever go down a year. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's literally insanity the amount of money that we pay to own a home nowadays. So, I'd hate to know what's going to be in 20 years, right, guys? 20 years from now, what are our kids and grandkids going to be paying for a property? $1 million just a entry market, just for a beginner home, probably. All right, so if this is any inclination, guys, hold on to your real estate if you can. So let's go ahead and keep reading here. Home prices are still rising by double-digit percentages year over year, but annual price appreciation should moderate to a typical rate of 5% by the end of this year and into 2023, says Hume. With mortgage rates expected to stabilize near 6% alongside steady job creation, home sales should start to rise by early next year. Now, I don't know if this guy gets paid. I don't know if this guy gets paid to be just very positive and optimistic, but I don't agree. I don't think that's going to happen. Does anyone here think that we're going to go back to a normal market, by 2023? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I've always been wrong with my real estate predictions, but I don't think this guy has enough information to say that this is actually what's going to happen.
Hey, Luke, can I add something?
Go for it, please. Go, Alejandro.
So my 2 cents on the price on the home. I would have thought like everything was looking like we're gonna get to a crash 2008 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The only difference that I see is home builders stopped doing new homes, so there is no more inventory.
Yeah,
The ones that already, so the ones already on the market, there's no magically created homes, or there's no homes. So I don't think that if it decrease the prices, I don't think it's gonna be much. It must 20% down. I mean, that's just my 2 cents, because where these homes gonna come? Like it could be they can raise the interest rate to 10%. People still need a home.
Yeah.
People still gonna buy if they need a home.
Oh, I think you're right.
So I don't see it. I don't see a big drop, to be honest, but I might be wrong. And everybody got their own opinion. That's for sure. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I for sure don't see a big drop either. And that's 100% right, because we still have the inventory issue that we never really cleared out. We never had a real enough time to get through that problem, because a lot of people, a lot of millennials, they're the ones that are really driving this market, and they still need homes. There's not enough homes for them. There's a lot of new families being created, not enough homes being created. So if we do still continue getting a 5% increase in home prices, that's very possible. But I think that we're due for a correction before we get an increase. I don't know. It may call me wrong. It could be something that I think is maybe more local to certain markets, not all markets. And if interest rates continue to stay at 6% or higher, I do think that's going to help, stabilize and keep the market under that 5%, or maybe even negative returns for a year. And that's possible, guys. Real estate doesn't have to go up every year. It doesn't. It trends in that direction, but it doesn't mean that every year has to be that. If it was, obviously, then that would be the holy grail of investing. There is years that it goes down.
What goes up doesn't necessarily always come down.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to crash to zero. That's one thing. Real estate is the only asset that, guys, as long as it doesn't burn down to the ground, even then, the land has a value that'll probably never go to zero. So if you're looking for something that's pretty safe, I would say real estate.
Dave Ramsey, I was listening to one of his podcasts not long ago. He thinks his bottom assessment was right now, if you're smart, you got to buy it right. You can't just be stupid and buy it.
Yeah.
But if you look around and buy right now, it's probably the best time in the last 50 years to buy real estate right now.
Yeah, he was quoted saying that.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think? Why does he think that is?
Well, the COVID drove things up 29%. So if it's got to correct 29% just to get back down to where it was. On a national average for the last 50 years, the average housing market increases 4 to 5% a year. We went 29%, 18%. they anticipated 8% in the first, in 2022, it's the housing market's grown by 8%. And his assessment and research shows that it'll probably grow 3 to 4% in 2023, which is still pretty close to the average. So interest rates have dipped a little bit. Prices have definitely come down. And so he says, I don't think you're going to see the prices go all the way back down 29% lower than what they were when COVID hit. So you're going to be able to get lower interest rates, prices that have dipped with the scale that's still going to go up on a growing market.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's very possible. I will tell you guys, no matter what happens in the real estate market, whether it's a year that's down, in the long term, you can't go wrong. You really can't. If you buy right, like Brent said, if you buy right, your clients buy right, they will never get hurt. Granted that it's not a liability for them. If it's a home that they can afford easily, that they can afford even if one of them loses a job, or if it's an investment property, if it cash flows, if one tenant doesn't pay, the rest of the home is covered by the other tenants, then those are assets, guys. Those are good. If you buy those right, you're sitting pretty. But that's why your expertise and your knowledge comes in as a real estate agent, is that you got to help people make those kinds of determinations. That's why I was very scared for a while when home prices were so ridiculous that people were offering 50 or 100 grand over just to get their offer looked at. That what is that? That's a recipe for disaster. So a lot of those people are gonna have a hard time catching up to just level, just to get back to break even, especially now when the market's kind of slowing down a bit. Those people are probably gonna be underwater
Lewis,
for a while.
I read an article that a lot of those people that bought over $50,000, $100,000 over are now having buyer's remorse.
Oh yeah, that's human nature. I'm surprised they even
Yeah.
closed on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said the percentage was very high, so it's understandable.
Yeah, and you know what? Those are the first people to end up losing their homes because they feel like it's going to take them way too long. People operate on a very short-term time frame in their mind. They feel like, oh my God, my home is at 50,000 undervalue. It's 100,000 undervalue. Oh, it's going to take us forever to get this, back to being a positive equity. And a lot of times people are like, I can't sell it, so I might as well just stop making the mortgage payments. So those people, mark my words, guys, those people that overpaid by that much, a high percentage of them, more than the rest of them, are going to be the ones candidates for short sales and foreclosures. Watch in the upcoming years that's going to happen.
So Lewis, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
My biggest fear in getting into real estate is when COVID hit, our president said, oh, you don't need to pay your rent. And so there have been people here, the government gave them 1 year, and then the banks, for whatever reason, out of their own goodness of heart or whatever, added another year. So people were living, not paying rent for 2 years. When you're the landlord and the government says you don't have to pay your rent, how does the landlord not go belly up doing that?
The landlord sells all of his properties in New Jersey and only buys in Florida and Texas. That's what he does. because because that was 100% accurate in Florida. In the nationally, or whatever, the government says you don't have to pay your rent during that time frame. But then the states took over from there, and the states added a whole bunch of other time that they were able to stay there while paying rent. And then the court systems were so backed up because of the state's nonsense, and because that's just how the courts are in a lot of these states, where you couldn't even get heard. I mean, I've got a tenant still that hasn't paid in over 2 years. I can't, we're still waiting for a court date, but I've gone to real estate investor events here in Florida, and they're telling me that it takes them 30 days to get someone out. Even during the pandemic, it was 30 days to get someone out if they didn't pay. So
Completely out?
completely out.
Wow,
Beginning,
that's crazy.
yeah, not even like 30 days after going to court. From starting the eviction process to getting them out, 30 days. So, obviously that may be a bit of a extremity, but under 60 for sure. I would give anything to get a 60-day eviction like we used to back in the day, but that doesn't happen anymore.
So you were fortunate enough to have a pocket deep enough to carry someone for 2 years, and you still own the property, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've had to eat that mortgage for 2 years.
Yeah, I think Jolie's on a call. Jolie tells she manages my properties, and that property, we vacated all the tenants maybe like almost a year ago, I would say. So for a year, that property has just been a thorn in my side. It's been under contract like 5 times. That's another thing.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's hesitancy about trying to get into rentals again. I was in it, got out of it.
Yeah.
I'm
You
thinking,
just don't want to do it. You just don't want to
A
do
lot-
it in a state that doesn't appreciate what a landlord is providing, because a landlord is providing shelter. And we got abused, during the pandemic. If you did not own a 3-unit or higher in New Jersey, there was no COVID relief for you as a landlord. You would have, if you owned, let's say 12 single family homes and all of them stopped paying you, well, there was no help for you. If you owned a 3-family or higher, then you can ask for rental assistance for the tenants for the rent to be covered. But the tenant would have had to cooperate as well. There's so many just things that didn't work. It was just a real broken system. I'm not sure if anyone had to go through that.
Yeah. So I like to add my beautiful experience I had the last 2 years. I'll let you know my beautiful.
He's very PC.
So yeah, well, I had the beautiful experience of being my first investment property, a rental property, right? I bought it maybe 4 months before COVID. So the tenant was there. There was a distress fund, bought it for the sheriff's cell. So I said, well, what can go wrong, right? What can go wrong if I let them stay in lower rent? They only paying $1,300 in hillside that I pay the first month, no problem. Okay, so I was trying to fix the leaks and this and that with them in it, which cost me maybe double, triple. And then COVID hit, and I didn't get any rent for like 2 years. But the bank gave me the beautiful option for rent, which I thought it was not really. Like, no, I got like $30,000 extra on my loan. Like, how come in 6 months? But that was the only option I had back then. So the only way to get these people out, believe it or not, in New Jersey, the only way to get these people out was for me to move in one of the units, then kick the other one out too. Because if you don't live on the property, you got no rights at all in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
So let's say, for example, one of the tenants was paying, yes, but they were destroying the property like really bad, like completely broke the tiles, brand new tiles I put in the bathroom. So in New Jersey, if they pay the rent on time, there is no way you can get them out if you don't live in the property. No way. You would be stuck with this tenant forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful New Jersey law. I learned so much, and I'm grateful for all the lessons, even though it was not easy. But I learned a lot, and I can guide anybody in a distress situation like that, like how to try to overcome this really, really bad situation. But the good side of the story. Well, Nicola helped me a lot not to go crazy on this thing. And thank you, Nicola, for all the help through the whole time. Well, I got the rent assistance from one of the tenants for the whole year. So, and I got them out, and I still got the check. So it was a good thing. I didn't lose much. I was losing sleep, but I didn't lose money wise, rent. Yeah, that was it. I mean, New Jersey, trying to liquidate everything, go to another state, really.
Yeah, it's hard to change the politics in a town or in a state where, they're really not for any entrepreneurs or landlords. It's very difficult, guys. I mean, if you're doing it and you're doing it successfully, good for you. I wish you all the luck. But for me, I've been investing, a long time, and I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that, this is not a place where my business is welcomed, and I'll go somewhere else where I can do well. And that's why it's very difficult to find good deals in a lot of the I would say a lot of the southern states, or a lot of the states that are respectful towards the to the rights of landlords. If you guys are looking for those, I'm sure there's a lot of information out there on the web. I think Texas, Nevada, Virginia, the Carolinas, I think a lot of those states are good for landlords. But I haven't done my homework. I've done my homework just on Florida, and I think it's worked out well here. Well, it's going to work out well here. I know that. Okay. Yeah. So Brent, you don't have to worry too much, but it's just more about, where are you protected as a landlord? Yeah, that's it more than, and then being worried about a tenant that doesn't pay, because there's a solution to that. Trina's asking, so is it better to flip than to rent? Oh, it depends on what your goals are. If your goal is to grow your capital as much as possible in a short amount of time, then flipping could be a better option for you. But if you're already at the point where you've already got enough money that you have working for you, you can start thinking about renting, because the beauty of renting is that you're going to build long-term wealth. With flipping, you don't build long-term wealth. With flipping, you build yourself another job, right? Because every time you flip a house, you have to replace that house, and buying that house also requires you to do renovations at a higher scale than you would if it's a rental, because on a rental you can get away with doing certain work. With a flip, you got to do a work that's much nicer and more high end, because the person who's going to be buying your home, I'm sure, is going to be more picky, because they're going to live there. So you got to spend more money on those. So it's a little bit more of an expensive renovation. Also, you're at the mercy of the buyer. So which means that if the buyer backs out when they're buying your home, you got to carry that home while it's empty. So there's a lot of pros and cons to doing both, or either one. But I would say that your long-term goal should be to rent. And I know what a lot of you are saying. I hate being a landlord. I don't want to have tenants. Well, guess what? It's not easy. It shouldn't be easy, because it was very easy, then anyone would do it. But if you get better at it, then it becomes easy, which means that you got to get better at screening your tenants. You got to get better at managing your tenants, and to the point where maybe you build up your portfolio to maybe 6 or 7 or 8 properties. Then you could think about hiring someone that do the property management for you. Until then, you got to put in the grind, you got to put in the work, you got to pick up the rents, you got to put up with the calls. It's not easy, but guys, I'm telling you, a couple of good years, especially if the market does take a downturn, it will set you up literally for life, and your kids for life, and your kids' kids for life, if you know how to really, work the system. So I would say that yes, flipping is good. I did it in the beginning too, but only because I knew that my long-term goal was to become a landlord, to own properties. Okay, so unfortunately, I built that up in the wrong state. Well, not unfortunately, because obviously they did increase in value, but if I could have done it all over again, I would have started buying in different states as opposed to buying in Jersey. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Trina. And Trina, I think that I think Oklahoma is a very landlord-friendly state, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that was good info. But yeah, there's a lot of, almost all the investors I know are renting property.
Yeah, it's better. It's just better because you get all the tax breaks and you become tax free. Do you guys know what it is to be tax free? Like, you don't have to pay tax on your income. Like, that's ridiculous. How can you become tax free? Well, the first way you become tax free by owning real estate is by instead of selling a property, because when you sell a property, you have to pay what's called short-term capital gains. Short-term capital gains come at a very high percentage. I think it's somewhere around like in the 20s, or maybe even approaching 30% right now, that you would have to pay on your income for the money you would make. So let's just say we bought a home for 100, we put 100 into it, and we sold it for 300. So that means that we're into the house for 200,000. We sold it for 3, so we made 100 grand. So from the 100,000 that you made, you have to pay 30% tax on that. So you're left with 70,000, right? Unless you roll it into a 1031 exchange, and that's a whole another topic for another day. But you're paying 30% of your income. So you're paying 30,000. So you're walking away with 70K, right? All right, not bad. So what happens is, if you would have bought that same house, you bought it for 100. Maybe you didn't put 100 into it because it's a rental. Maybe you put 50 into it, right? So now you're into it for 150, but it's still worth 300. So you go to a bank and you say, hey, look, my home is worth 300. I want to take out a 75% or an 80% mortgage on this. So let's just say that they give you 240 on the property. You only owed 150 on it because that's what you have into it. So you walk away with $90,000 tax free. Why is that tax free? Because it's not a profit, it's a loan. And now you got a tenant in that property paying off that mortgage for you. Hopefully it's cash flowing. And you got $90,000 and you got someone paying off the loan for you in that property. Meanwhile, you're walking away with 90 grand and you take it at 90 grand and reinvesting it into another property, doing it again, doing it again, doing it again. Continue that formula for 5 years, guys. Oh man, you'll be in such a good place in life. But the hardest one is always the first one. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Louis, when you do this, do you have to refinance?
I mean, if you have unlimited funds, you don't have to refinance. You can keep, if you bought it cash or if you bought it with hard money, I suggest that, you look for ways to get out of that hard money loan. Or if you bought it cash, I mean, if your money's just sitting there in one home, I would say that if you've got unlimited funds, then fine, leave it. But if you need more money to continue doing that process, then take money out of that home and refinance.
What about someone that bought because right now I have a client and she bought during COVID and her payments are super low. Her house has a lot of equity and she wants to buy a second home, but she is going conventional because the lender told her that she has to refinance. Even if she takes how do you call it, equity loan, does she have to refinance or what? How can I help her? Because she wants to go multifamily, but right now, since they're telling her to go conventional, she doesn't have 15% down.
Oh yeah, if she needs more, well, the thing is, what kind of home does she own? Does she own a single family home?
No, a multifamily.
She owns a multifamily right now. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. What I would do if I was her is I would refinance the property or take out a home equity line of credit. If she could take out a home equity line of credit, go that route all day long.
And then she doesn't have to refinance.
Yes, exactly. Go with it
Okay.
because she probably has a very low interest rate.
Yes, it's like 2.5.
Yeah, so I wouldn't touch that, but if she can get a equity loan against the property, take the equity loan, it's like a credit card and use it for the other house. And then when she does, now the only catch is that the house she buys, it can't be a home that doesn't cash flow. So you got to make sure you get her a home that cash flows. If it does, then good, because now that the money she's going to be paying for that equity loan would be paid off by the income that's coming off the other property.
Okay, why
sure,
would the lender recommend this to her?
Hold on one second, guys. Can you help me answer that question? I got to take this call from the inspectors.
What was,
Points. They want their
When I
points.
sent her to the lender, she didn't give her this as an option. That's why I'm trying to, understand why this wasn't mentioned in the conversation.
Because he doesn't get paid the same that he would
Yeah.
on a regular loan. See, they get to adjust their points. Their point system go into their pockets like our
Okay.
commission, but they do their commission in points. So for a home equity, he doesn't get anything, but
So
he'll
it's
get
time
something on a
to
refi.
lender.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
all
you.
it is.
Thank
And
you.
if Alejandro's still on the call, all the builders are in Georgia. If I would just get off my lazy butt and do a video, every corner I turn, there's a new subdivision. And also what we have here in Georgia, we got a lot of the big companies, and what they're doing is they not only building new homes, but they're building the new homes to rent, not even for resale.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that. They're advertising a lot of that, what
Yeah.
they're doing in the South and the newspapers up here in the North, like the New York Times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Georgia has a lot of building going on, 55 and over communities. So they may not be building in New Jersey because, like Lewis said, New Jersey isn't friendly, but they're sure here
Right.
in Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina. And they're
Okay.
starting to build out in
think it's about
Alabama.
Mhm.
What'd you say?
It's a trend. What I noticed is the trend comes from New York, start going down to the States, just like appreciation, just like people coming down and stuff like that. Yes, right now
Well,
it's building, but they will stop. Trust me, they will
no,
stop.
they're not, because the movie scene, Fayetteville Georgia's holds pretty much all of Netflix new films and things that are coming out. They're all being shot here in Georgia. All game shows are now being shot in Georgia. So we
Wow.
have 25 new movie studios building in my area.
Where at though? In what parts?
Fayetteville. It's below Atlanta. And that's the next video. Atlanta is not Georgia. So we have so much land available that the movie studios are coming here. And a lot of people still don't understand that Georgia is the main hub for distribution on the East Coast. So our warehousing plants are growing increasingly. So we have jobs in movies and so many multi-million-dollar houses. I used to think that Georgia was cheap until I started riding around. And like Sarah said, a lot of these million-dollar homes are up for sale in this area, but they're not sitting on the market. I got the reverse. My lower homes are sitting on the market, but the million-dollar homes are flying off the shelf because of the talent that's coming in to be a part of these movie studios and these companies that are moving in their big execs to run these warehouses.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that Georgia's getting a lot of the Hollywood is coming to Georgia.
Whole lot, 25 new movie studios being built.
But there was they were having like an issue, like political issues, the actors, because they didn't want to come to Georgia because Georgia's political views. So I think they were saying that like Georgia has to change their political views. If not, they were gonna like boycott Georgia. Did you hear about that?
They trying to get the governor out. It's Governor Kemp with all
They're trying to
this
turn it into California.
I don't know what he's doing, but you know what? It's so much going on here. The media just needs something to report because they're out here. My daughter Taylor is coaching half of these actors, gym kids and gymnastics out there in Fayetteville. So
Mhm.
no, they're coming. You see them
Yeah.
all over the stores.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the locals hate it.
That's the hard thing about it is I'm fighting off people thinking that everybody's moving to Georgia and that's what's driving the home sales up. And they're not understanding these people coming to Georgia, relocation is not the reason for the home sale going up. Is what we just got finished talking about is the feds and the interest rates and everything else moving about because home rates were going up before those movie studios was being built.
Mhm.
So you can't blame people relocating for home prices going up. It didn't go up when I came and people were still coming.
Yeah.
So that's
course.
not the issue.
Good, good. Yeah. Well, anything else that you guys want to add? We're at the top of the hour now, and a few of you have to go.
Louis, I
Yeah.
want to ask you, you were talking about investments and how we could better serve our clients.
Yeah.
Could we have a like one time we can dedicate time to you talking about that, how we can better serve our clients, like because there were a lot of questions on that.
Sure, I can show you guys how to better find inventory and how to maybe, look for those good deals, both on and off the market. So we can maybe do that next week if you guys like.
Yes.
Sounds good?
Before we
Yeah.
go, I want to introduce my new mentee, Doris.
Oh,
She's on the call, is iPhone 3. I'm not sure if she's gonna turn on her camera or not, but I did tell her that I was gonna introduce her.
Oh yeah, we see her here.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
I look. I really don't feel comfortable putting on my camera. I made the last Zoom.
Welcome.
It's great. I love it.
She's
thank you for being
actually
here.
in Connecticut, but she's licensed in New Jersey. So if you guys need any help, she's down to help.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Congrats and thank you for
Welcome.
being here.
Thank you.
Good, good, good. All right, anyone else?
Nobody saw on Facebook. My oldest daughter earned her wings on Friday. She's
Yeah,
flying
that
with
was
Delta.
awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh, that's amazing. I wanted to be
So
a pilot.
if you're flying, please be nice to the flight attendants. They are so understaffed. No, it's just that they're just terribly understaffed. She just graduated, but she's already doing international flights. She flies out tomorrow already.
Oh,
That's
wow.
That's how quickly they tossing them into the field.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of everything. Shortage of teachers, pilots, stewardess, everything.
Well, good job, Mama. She's beautiful. She looks like a very classy, well put together young lady.
Yeah, good for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That is awesome. All right, let's go ahead and close out with our prayer, guys. Father God, we thank you for having us here, Father. We thank you for all the blessings in our life, Father. We also thank you for all the lessons that we've learned throughout this week, Father. We also ask you to continue giving us the health and giving us the ability to also learn, Father, like we did today in this meeting, Father. Allow us to take the information we were given today and put that to work this week, Father, and help build our families and build our own financial well-being. Father, we ask you to keep us safe and allow us to come back here safe and sound in one piece next week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Amen.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take
Have
care.
a great week.
And have a
Thank
good
you.
Enjoy the week, guys.
Bye-bye.